Hello, magical people. My name is Lou, and I would like to welcome you back to my channel. Today, the offering will be a pick a card tarot reading, and we will have 3 piles of cards for you to choose from. They are, as per usual, a mix of tarot and oracle cards. And in addition to having the 3 piles, in sort of honor of the solstice, I wanted to pick tokens that were representative of the solstice a little bit. And so I picked stars because, of course, the solstice is in the northern hemisphere where we are about to have the winter solstice. That is the longest day of the year. So it's a time when we need to bring more light. We see a light starting to slowly return to us. And when I think of lights, I think of twinkles, and that makes me think of stars. And so I went around and selected 3 star tokens. So pile 1 will be represented by this star, which is, I believe it's iron of some sort, but I'm not certain. But it's heavy, and it makes a nice noise when you tinkle it against something. Then group 2 or pile 2 will be represented by this gold star. And then the third pile, we have here technically a starfish, but we have here this prism starfish. So that will be pile 1, 2, and 3. You can choose by any metric you like, whether you like that each one also uses a different set of tarot cards. And so you can choose which back of the tarot cards you like, which star you like, which number you like. You can, of course, certainly pick more than one. As always, I'd like for you to take what resonates and go ahead and just chuck the rest out the window. Being a general reading, this can sometimes mean that even if a reading is for you, there will be a part of it that maybe doesn't feel like it fits you, and that's okay. Let's see, what else? If you are interested in a personal reading, let me know. I have been putting that information in the description box below, so if you're curious about how to obtain a personal reading, all that information will be down there. I have also kind of been toying with the idea of trying to do a live stream every now and again, so if any of y'all have thoughts on that, whether they be yays or nays, feel free to leave that in the comments below as well. And I think, having said that, I'm going to insert a still here of the 3 piles, so you can pause the video if you'd like and look at that, take a couple of deep breaths, and go ahead and just make your decision. Okay, so group 1, if you selected either this star or these tarot cards, then this is going to be your winter solstice reading. And like I said before, we've got here a combination of tarot and oracle cards. So the first oracle card to come out is repetition. The second oracle card to come out is storm. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Then we also have Pleiades, double mission, channeling and uplifting humanity. And right off the bat here, I'm also seeing that with that phrase of double mission, I think that's also pointing to these 2 cards where we have repetition, where there's a repeating pattern of things, and it feels stormy. So whether that storminess is coming through as chaos for you, or whether it's coming through having to navigate a lot of difficult things, I kind of get the sense that there's been sort of a lot happening for you lately in your life. And it's interesting because, like, on the one hand, storms bring in new energy, but then there's also this repetition card, which also with the pictures of the moon here really speaks to the cycles of things. So it's not just repetition like things are stuck, it's repetition more in the nature of things will ebb and flow, as that is just the nature of life. So, but okay, pointing to this one real quick before I move on with the rest of them, I also think here that there's something about maybe you are a person who has been really trying to determine what your purpose is, and this channeling and uplifting humanity, which this is a very beautiful card and also at times a very passive card, because it doesn't require you to be anything other than what you are. It doesn't require you to do anything. It just requires you to be. So it's kind of, there's an interesting dichotomy already showing up here. Now, continuing on with the moon card, oracle card here, we have your dreams need a practical plan. Full moon in Taurus. And then as an animal card, oh, armadillo, we have the armadillo spirit. Set healthy boundaries. So I wonder if this, and again, not everything will resonate for everybody, but I wonder if this sense of storminess has been through maybe having to do with not being able to keep the healthiest of boundaries, whether that's with people or with situations. And by people or situations, I mean that it's pretty easy to see ways that we can have unhealthy boundaries with people. An unhealthy boundary with a situation would be not being able to put your work down at the end of the day, and just keeping and just really letting that work space sort of flow over and interfere with your personal life. That can sort of be an example of how we can have unhealthy boundaries with more abstract ideas rather than just with, you know, particular people. So now for tarot cards, oh, interesting. We have the 10 of Cups right off the bat. That is some beautiful energy, group one. We also have the King of Swords here, man of some very serious discernment. We have the Tower, which this does not surprise me, especially with that Storm card coming up and the need for a practical plan. It does seem as though things have maybe been in a state of flux or chaos or change for you. We also have the Six of Pentacles. This is the card of altruism and giving back and recognizing the abundance that one has in one's life. Oh, more wands. Oh, no, the other one was swords. Sorry. We have here the Knight of Wands. An impetuous, creative fellow. Really good problem solver. Quick thinking. He's a quick thinker. And then we also have the Nine of Pentacles. Oh, interesting, group one. This is really fascinating energy. I feel like, first of all, okay, so we've got a lot of messages that are coming through here for the solstice. One of them is some need for there to be some grounding. I see you are trying to get to this place where you have discernment and you have an understanding of what's going to be emotionally fulfilling for you. And you're working towards, through all of this chaos and all of this storminess, you are working towards being in that place of being very self-reliant and able to trust yourself. But it also looks as though they're in order to get to those end stages of that really high vibrational energy of those cards, you know, it's also a time that requires some really serious grounding, particularly with this Storm card and this Tower card coming up. I really feel like, you know, as you've been working through that, maybe one of the reasons why it feels like you're just kind of going through this repetition rather than actually being able to break through the edge of the storm and get beyond the destruction of that tower falling down, is because you're, I don't know, like emotional dysregulation is kind of the phrase that's coming up right now. Like there's all of this stuff pushing on you from the outside, and that's interfering with your double mission here, your ability to channel and uplift humanity. Because of course, before we can uplift anybody else, we have to be really showing up for ourselves with that Nine of Pentacles energy. So, you know, I feel like there, if you are a person who meditates, or if you're a person who is interested in chakras or chakra work, then I would recommend doing some grounding energy and working on your first chakra and possibly even your second chakra, because sometimes when things get really dysregulated in that first one, it can really kind of like bubble up and impact our second chakra as well. And of course, all of the other ones above it, but most specifically, that first and second one I'm feeling is coming up for you, group 2, and particularly with regards to setting healthy boundaries. You know, I am really feeling that for some of you, and this won't be for all of you, but for some of you, this is going to be less about setting healthy boundaries with people or things outside of yourself, and more about working on setting some healthy boundaries with yourself, as you sort of are kind of on this path of like, you know, there's this, it's really interesting because there's both a lot of beauty here, but there's also a lot of change and a lot of chaos. And like the way that the Nine of Pentacles becomes the Nine of Pentacles is by moving through all of the other aspects of that card. So even though it is a very beautiful, high vibe energy of being self-reliant and really showing up for yourself and being able to trust yourself, it's like that's through a series of difficult lessons learned. So I feel like there's been a lot of stuff that's been going on for you that's been bringing about this feeling of like storminess. And it's interesting, I actually just got this kind of picture in my mind of somebody being kind of like tossed around by the storm, and it's kind of cool because when the picture sort of evolved a little bit, and it's like at first it was a person being sort of tossed around by this storm, and then they decided to kind of turn it into a dance, and they started dancing with that storm that was happening all around them, and that actually allowed them to kind of like dance through the edges of it, in order to escape the umbrella of that storminess. So I feel like maybe if resistance is something that has been coming up for you lately, that might be also something to work on. And maybe this has to do with this tower energy of this thing, this feeling of things falling apart and being out of your control. Sometimes, I mean, the tower falls because the tower must fall. The tower wasn't built on the best of foundations, and when you have something that's not built on a healthy, strong, plumb square foundation, then over time that structure becomes dangerous to be in, and so it has to fall down so that you can build anew using the lessons you learned from the process of degradation, or not degradation, well, I guess it is, it's a degradation of circumstances. So, you know, I feel like what your guides are really encouraging you to do is they're wanting you to know, first of all, that you already do have your own truth. Your own truth already lives within you, and you're being guided to try and, even if you can't escape the storm, find a space within the eye of the storm where you can be calm, and you can, regardless of your outside circumstances, really connect with yourself and calm your body and your mind and your thinking down, and that will kind of help you tune in with this King of Swords energy. And it's also interesting too, because I feel like this is one of these things that it may feel like stuff's just tough, and that it's been like a period of like going through storm after storm after storm, and feeling like you were working towards something, but never really being able to get grounded enough to start taking those steps. And that if that is your perception, then that is real, and I certainly wouldn't want you to discount it. But your guides are also kind of really wanting you to, if you can, step back from your current situation and recognize that this is happening for a greater purpose for you. Having these things fall away that aren't working for you anymore gives you more clarity on how to take those practical steps, and also how to refine what your dream is and what exactly it is that you want to be working towards. I meant to be putting this one forward because this Ten of Cups energy, this is being in a place of emotional fulfillment. And it is, even though it is Cups energy, it is also very grounded energy. This is very cozy. It's very comfortable. There's a lot of emotional intimacy here, but not just emotional intimacy. Like, there's also familiarity and comfort. And like these, it is the Ten of Cups energy that we can build foundations on that will last, that won't be another one of these sorts of tower situations. So your guys are really just encouraging you to stick through this. You do have, just you being you and existing as you are is really all that's required of you. And on the one hand, that sounds very easy, but on the other hand, it can be very difficult, particularly if these healthy boundaries do involve people or situations outside of you, because that can be very it can be very difficult to rewrite the covert contracts in our relationships. This is why sometimes if we have a relationship of any kind, it can even be a professional relationship, it doesn't necessarily have to be, have a huge amount of emotional intimacy to it. But when we have long relationships, then sometimes there's a reason why they become stale. If we are a person who is in kind of a growth mindset, and we are in a mindset of trying to improve ourselves and the way that we engage in the world and the way that we engage with ourselves, then sometimes those longer relationships, the covert contracts that we sort of entered into at the beginning of those relationships, no longer fit anymore because we have changed. And yet the terms under which that relationship exists hasn't changed. And so that can also sometimes feel really uncomfortable. And maybe that also is something else that you're coming up again. I'm going to pull a couple more tarot cards just from another deck here. We have our standard Rider-Waite deck, just to get some final messages to send you on your way. Again, your guides are really, it's really interesting. There's a lot of feeling of, like, they have a lot of faith in you, and they it's like they want to tell you that, along with the solstice being metaphorically and physically representative of more light coming into the life, they also want to reassure you that as above, so below, and that there will be more light coming into your life as well. And that as the dust settles from that tower falling, and as the wind clears from these storms that you've been experiencing, there will be a lot more clarity. Like I said, that King of Swords energy, there's going to be a lot more clarity, and you're going to have a lot more understanding of what your personal truths are and what dreams you have. And once you're able to get a little bit more clarity on that, then it becomes, of course, that much easier to take those practical steps to building towards that dream that you've spent that time clarifying. So let's see here. We're going to pull a couple more tarot cards, see if your guides have any more messages. And the first card that came out here is the Five of Cups. So your guides are also wanting you to recognize that even though there has been a lot of chaos before you, that if you were to turn around, you would find that there are things that are still whole. It's almost like you're so kerfuffled by all of the stuff that's been going on that perhaps you've lost sight of that. So your guides are just wanting to remind you of it. And I feel like back with that Pleiades card, that double mission of channeling and uplifting humanity, I've got kind of like another message coming through on that like your guides didn't want to tell you that for the purpose of making you feel overly obligated. Like, of course, my purpose is to be here for others. I mean, to a certain degree, that is true for all of us. But your guides are wanting me to point out that, again, this isn't a card about what you do. It's a card about who you are and what you are, and it doesn't require action. It doesn't require overt action on your part to fulfill your purpose. So by moving towards your dreams, by learning to build a practical plan towards them, you can't go wrong there. Like you're just by you being you, whatever the choices that you make in your life and whatever you build for yourself, you will be within purpose. That's an interesting message. That's an interesting message, group one. I hope that means something for some of you, or one of you, or all of you. We also have for tarot cards. Oh, interesting. We have the Two of Swords, and I do not usually read reversed, but this card did come out reversed, so we're going to read it that way. So your guides are also wanting to let you know that this, going back to this repetition and this storm, that you are coming out of a place where you feel like you are bound and, or not bound, but blinded and uncertain of how to proceed. That Two of Swords energy is coming to an end, and it will be, the storms will clear, and you'll see that your horizon is much more clear than it's felt to you of late. So your guides are just really wanting you to hang in there. It seems as though things have been a bit much, you know, they're wanting to let you know that. That's awesome. I just felt like I had to look at the bottom of the deck, and it's the Fool card. So yeah, your guides are wanting to let you know that all of this difficulty, the storm, this chaos, these having to navigate setting healthy boundaries, how to come up with a practical plan, how to even know what your dreams are and find your own truth amidst all of that chaos. The underlying energy is the Fool, which is brand new. It's a whole new adventure filled with tremendous opportunity. So I hope you found this encouraging. I hope you found this helpful. As always, group one, please don't forget to be kind and gentle with yourselves. Till next time, happy solstice. Hello, group two. If you selected either this adorable little star or the tarot cards with the back that looked like this, then this, in fact, is going to be your solstice reading. So let's start off and see what we have for oracle cards. Ooh, beautiful card. We have Fortitude. That's a really beautiful one. We also have Immunity. Ooh, so much strength coming through in this. Wow. We also have the Crumbling. That's funny, the Tower came up in pile one. And this card is kind of similar energy to the Tower. We have the Crumbling. What are you clinging on to? Ooh, interesting. We also have New Moon in Scorpio. Work through your fears. And then for an animal oracle, oh wow, that's really cool. We have Flamingo Spirit. Embrace the in-between. Okay, so before we look at your tarot cards that came through, I just want to start and get some messages coming through here for you, pile two, because I feel like there's already this really interesting message. You are both in this place of being in a place of real strength and being having that sort of like energy of immunity, and yet at the same time there's some things that still need to be let go of, and it looks as though that has to do a lot with different fears that might be coming up for you. And so you're kind of being invited to stay in that space of recognizing how strong you are and really owning that sense of power in yourself, but not to the exclusion of acknowledging your own fears and the ways that you are still kind of holding yourself back in a way. So let's pull the oracle cards. Oh, wow, guys, damn. Whew. Okay, so first of all, we have the Ace of Swords. This is really beautiful. We also have the Magician card. Yeah, like you are the manifester. You've already got all of the tools available to you. You're kind of holding yourself back here. And what's interesting is that I feel like maybe from your perception anyhow, that one of the things that you perceive as holding you back or holding you up from being fully in the strength of power in yourself and fully stepping into that new way of thinking and that magician energy of shifting reality around you, is that you feel as though you need to make a choice. You feel like you don't have enough clarity around something. So it's like maybe there's a decision that you've been needing to make and you're not really able to see which way your heart is leading you. We also have the Page of Cups, the Empress card, and the Seven of Swords. Ooh, interesting energy. Group two. Okay. So, okay, the first message that's coming through, the first really big one, is one of the reasons why it's difficult for you to work through your fears is because it's almost like you're afraid of the fears in a way, and you're also simultaneously a little bit afraid to step into that magician energy, that energy of really owning it. And I have a feeling that for you, this is kind of coming down to, sorry, my nose is super itchy all of a sudden, that for some of you, this is going to come down to a matter of self-regard, self-value, or self-love, self-nurturing, and sort of self-image. This is really kind of one of those readings where it's like the primary message that your guides are wanting to get through is you are powerful and you have all of the tools and skills available to you to shift your reality in the way that you choose to, when you choose to enforce your will to do so. But this fear that's coming up to you, that's coming up for you, is really kind of all around maybe needing to do some inner child work. I feel like, you know, the Empress often speaks to me of nurturing and mothering, and what does a mother do but mother a child? And so when we are asked to be that Empress energy for ourselves, then sometimes that can also point to needing to do a little bit of reparenting for our own inner child. And I kind of feel like with the Seven of Swords coming out right out after this Empress energy, this Empress card, and kind of speaking about this inner child, that, you know, there have been some things that were taken from you and it was not fair. It wasn't fair. And it caused damage and it left scars, and that's one of the reasons why you're having a little bit of difficulty tuning into that loving energy for yourself. I get the feeling that you're like one of those people who's like super strong, and when push comes to shove, you are able to just be there, like especially if it's like a friend or a family member or somebody that you really care about who needs you, you are rock freaking solid. But when it comes to being there for yourself, you've got a lot. It's not that you have less strength, it's that you feel like you have that strength, as though somehow the ways that you show up for yourself could be different, of necessity, of the ways that you show up for others. But that's just not true. Like if you are able to show up for others by being strong and by helping them get their needs met in those moments of difficulty or chaos or crisis or problem solving or problems being needed to be solved, then that is absolutely something that you can do for yourself as well. And your guides are really just wanting to drive that home. And again, this won't resonate for everybody, but I'm really feeling urged here to just reiterate that this thing that was taken, this injustice that was done against you, wasn't your fault. And I feel like for some of you, this is going to be going back in the way back machine. Like this is pointing to basically some unresolved and unhealed core wounds left over from the circumstances of your early life that are now kind of showing up and inhibiting you now from being able to fully step into that place of your own power. And it's like, I feel like you can see that it's there sometimes, but, you know, I feel like with this flamingo spirit, I wonder if maybe one of the experiences that you've been having is that you kind of waffle from feeling like you're in this energy of like, yeah, I'm badass, I can get it done, it doesn't matter what it is, I can do it, I got this, I can manage. And then also feeling very like, I have no idea what I'm doing, I have no idea what's going on, I don't know, I'm scared. Like there there are energies that are kind of on two ends of a spectrum. And Flamingo Spirit and your guides are wanting you to, if you can, embrace that area in the middle. Because when you embrace that area in the middle, you still have access to both aspects of it without getting so lost in either one of them. Because one of the things that, even if we are strong, even if we do have all of this fortitude and all of this strength and all of this capability and wisdom and sight available to us, that doesn't mean that we're invincible. So you also don't want to stray too far down that energy of feeling like you are so strong that nothing could take you down, or that you couldn't be hurt, and that you are truly immune from all things. You know, there's a danger in leaning too much into that energy, just as in the same way that there is danger from leaning too much to the energy of being fearful of letting go of things that we need to let go of, or holding on to old fears because we're afraid of facing them. And again, this won't resonate for everybody, but you know, I feel like that once you work through the fear of looking and working through your fears, you'll find that they're not actually as insurmountable as you think they are. It's almost like the fear of the fear is so much more empowering, or disempowering, than the actual fear itself. All right, so we're gonna pull a few more tarot cards from another deck and see if we can get some more messages to come through for you, group 2. I also, before I do that though, just want to look at this Fortitude card again with y'all here, because I want you to notice this trinket that he has in his, dangling is from his hand, and that it is a heart. And so, you know, your guides are also wanting to remind you in this solstice season that your heart is strong, and that even if it feels as though your heart has been broken before, hearts can heal and can in fact be stronger for having been broken. Okay, so now let's pull a couple of tarot cards here from this deck. A couple of tarot cards for group 2, additional messages regarding this solstice season and just things that they need to hear right now. All right. That's so weird. I never read reversals. This happened in group 1 too, and usually all of my decks, because I don't read in reversals and because of the way I shuffle, I don't get them. And yet we have another one that came through right now. And so, okay, so we have here the 9 of Swords and the King of Swords reversed. And so, like, what's happening here is that when you are, with regards to these fears that need to be worked through and these things that you're clinging to that need to be released, I feel like there's a lot of anxiety that you have around that. And what your guides are wanting to let you know is that that anxiety is not the truth. That anxiety is not the truth. That's just your perception in that moment. And I have a long history with anxiety. It's one of my oldest relationships. Thank you very much. And, you know, it can very much, when you are in those moments of feeling anxious, or even if you have panic attacks, that it feels very much as though just everything is just intensely terrible and happening right now. But it's interesting because it's actually usually not based on anything that's happening in that moment. It's usually like we're reacting to things in some way that aren't even physically present at all. or, maybe they were things that are physically present. They were negative experiences that can sort of trigger our anxiety, but then it won't happen until after the fact. So a lot of the times when we are experiencing anxiety, it's not an accurate representation of the reality of things as they're occurring right now. It's more that our perception gets stuck because of previous experiences that we've had that are showing up and shading and coloring the experiences that we're having the now. So we also have here the for last couple of cards that came out. So we have the Two of Pentacles and the Wheel of Fortune, and it's interesting because it really is like chance is on your side, and you are being like strongly guided to take a leap of faith on yourself and to trust yourself in recognizing this strength that you have within you. And that even when it feels like, even though it may feel chaotic and it may feel very difficult to be moving in between those places of feeling like you're about to step in your power, but then also knowing you have all of these fears that you still need to work through, even though that can feel like trying to juggle a lot, the greater reality is that chance is on your side, and your guides are really wanting you to break through that fear and get a better understanding of where those fears came from, so that you can not eliminate them. It's not necessarily about eliminating your fears. It's more about working through them. And by working through them, we can get a better understanding of where they came from, how they showed up for us, how they color the choices that we make moving forward, and kind of desensitizing ourselves to it in a way, so that, like, say for example, oh gosh, I wish I hadn't said that, because now I'm never going to be able to think of an example. Say that you are a person who has some kind of, like, maybe agoraphobia, where there is a fear of being out in the world. And some people may say, well, if I go out in the world, I could be, hit by a car, I could be, it's the United States, I could be shot, I could be kidnapped. There's all sorts of terrible things that could be behind that we give as reasons why that fear of wanting to go out exists. But with some deeper inspection and an ability or a willingness to sit with that fear and hear what it has to tell you, then one of the sort of underlying truths behind that fear may be, I'm scared of uncertainty. These are just manifestations of how uncertainty could show up. But the bigger truth is that I'm fearful of uncertainty. And it's not like knowing that is going to make you get rid of that fear of certainty. But once you've gotten a clear eye on where the underlying fear is coming from, then, and what exactly it is pointing to, then you can work with it a little bit better. And you can be like, all right, so I know I'm fearful of uncertainty, and yet I want to do this thing that I haven't done before, which is of necessity, and by its very nature, a little bit uncertain. So how can I work with myself to mitigate the higher ends of that fear? What can I do to remove a little bit of the uncertainty? So if, for example, one of your worries was about getting in a car accident, then one of the things that you could help to mitigate that fear is to take some defensive driving classes, or to put yourself in a situation where you don't ride with people that you don't feel are trustworthy. These are just really kind of silly off the cuff, well, not silly, but topical off the cuff sort of things that are occurring to me. But I think I'm pointing here to all of the things that you could do with this information and what I'm trying to get at. So of course the circumstances are going to be completely different for each and every one of you, but I hope that what I've had to share here about really embracing your strength and allowing yourself to work through the fear of the fear, I hope that you found this helpful, and I hope that you found it inspiring, and I would love to hear if you have anything that you'd like to share. Happy solstice to you, my friends, And until next time, don't forget to be kind and gentle with yourselves. Hello, Group 3. If you selected either this adorable little prism star or this tarot card back, then this, in fact, is going to be your solstice reading. So let's just go ahead and dive right in. So starting with the oracle cards. Ooh, interesting. We have revision. We also have voice. Ooh, very sensory so far. We've got sight, we've got sound, and all of the metaphorical things those point to. We have Emrama. Where are you being called to journey to? We also have new moon in Pisces. Meditate and contemplate. And then for an animal, oh wow, this is terrific, Group 3. For the animal spirit, we have the stag spirit. Take the lead. All right, so messages that are coming through so far is that this is a time of change for you. You are being kind of asked to sort of revise and re-envision where you are and who you are and where you're going. Also, you're being invited to use your voice, and if you're a meditator, or even if you're not, if you want to consider it, then I would look into doing some 5th chakra work around your 5th chakra, which is where we use our voice, how we spoke and are spoken to. That kind of energy moves through that space. So I kind of feel like you're on a cusp. You're on a cusp of some things really being changed up for you, and it's an opportunity for you to revision, reimagine, and restate where you want to take your journey and where you're being called to journey to. And you're also being asked to really take a pause here, to take some time and contemplate the answer to that question, and really see if you can crystallize your vision of where you want to go from here. And that once you have that crystallized vision a little bit, then that will allow you to kind of take the lead and actually take action. So it's like there's this contemplative period followed by a period of action. All right, so now let's see what we have for tarot cards. Great. First, we have the Weaver of Boons, which this is the Queen of Pentacles. We have the Fairy Wind, which is otherwise known as the Chariot. We have the Four of Boons, which is the Four of Pentacles. We have the Nine of Spells, which is the Nine of Wands. And we have the Star card here called Starlight. And then we also have the Child of Spells. Oh, there's so much newness and there's so much possibility here. And, you know, I see, and also like moving forward. I mean, I said it with that Stag card, but also with the Chariot card. That's all about moving forward from a place of, it's like moving forward victoriously, moving forward from a place of being, from a place of, like when you're sitting in a chariot, you're up a little bit. You have a greater view of the expanse in front of you. So it's not just about moving forward. It's also about your past experiences having given you, having clarified your vision about moving forward. So I feel like, I mean, that's kind of repeating what I already said with the oracle cards, but it's just coming through so strongly. And I feel like with regards to why there's a need to do some re-envisioning and reimagining and doing some work on your 5th chakra, your throat chakra, I feel like that kind of points to primarily these two cards. Like, I see that this is a time of healing for you. The Queen of Pentacles is very much a healer and a nurturer, and like, oh my God, don't you just want to like follow her into that cozy home and let her tell you stories about the things that she's experienced and all of the plants that she's grown and all of the things that she's nurtured back. And like, I mean, this is very, very healing energy. And I feel like there is a reason why you need to heal. I feel like things have been kind of tough. It's kind of been that energy of, it's almost like, you know, it's interesting. It's almost like that sense of when somebody like pushes on you so hard, and so your reaction is to kind of like pull back or retract your energy or hold on tighter to protect yourself. And I feel like there's been a need for you to do that, and that you know, you're being called on to step out of that energy as there's no need for it anymore. And I feel like also maybe this is one of the first times that you've kind of had the opportunity to step into that place of using your intuition, using your inspiration to guide where you go in the future. Because with this child card, you know, there's a lot of like stepping into something new, like a new energy for the first time. So there's a little bit of like fumbling around to it too. Like, nobody expects this process to be perfect. That's why your guides are wanting you to meditate and contemplate about it, because this is kind of an important time in your life, your journey. Like, you are being called to something, and you are being called to take a look at where you are and re-envision your life in a way. And for some of you, it's not going to be even about making any huge changes in terms of like moving or new people or a new job. It's really going to be more of an internal process. So I feel like maybe for some of you, it might be helpful, if this is not something that you've done before, on working on some narrative work and maybe trying to rewrite your narrative a little bit. Because again, with that voice card coming up, I feel like that's something that, you know, the reason you're being called on to use your voice now is that maybe there have been some times in the past where you've held your tongue, or where you didn't use your voice for one reason or another. And you're being asked to step out of that energy and really be your own advocate and see yourself and re-envision yourself and revise your vision of yourself as your own advocate. And that will help you take that leadership role that you're being guided to move into. Now, I think also, okay, so we've got healing happening, we've got moving forward happening, we've got that there's a lot of things that have changed. And also with the star card, like, there are some real big opportunities here for you to reach towards the things that make you feel that sense of awe that you get when you look at a star-filled sky. You know, like, it's like wish fulfillment. You know, so you're being asked to really like tune into well, one, set your boundaries. One, whether they be energetic or whatever. You know, the Nine of Spells, the Nine of Wands card comes from being overburdened, and oftentimes we get overburdened when we end up carrying other people's burdens in addition to our own. So it's like we're taking on more than anybody could possibly take on, and kind of sort of energetically, it's kind of the equivalent of like walking around and being like, oh, you want me to take on your difficult energy too, and I'll take your difficult energy too. And maybe that's because you perceive yourself as a healer, and that is amazing. That is great. That is a wonderful gift to be able to heal. But you don't have to take on other people's burdens in order to be a healer. You just imagine, like, you know, obviously there's a cornucopia of different kinds of healing out there, but like, you just imagine that if you went to a doctor with a broken arm, and the doctor was like, okay, I will heal your arm, and in return I will take a broken arm. I will take it. That's just not the way it works. It sounds asinine to even say such a thing out loud. And yet those of us who are energy healers, or therapists, or counselors, or empathetic people who are very good at helping other people to see their own light, we often sometimes do accidentally take on other people's burdens without even realizing it. So I feel like there's some real boundary work here that could be done too, if that's something that you've experienced for yourself, or that you see in your own life. You know, your guides are wanting you to know that you don't have to do that in order to be a healer. You don't have to take on the wounds of those who you heal. It just doesn't have to be that way. Like oftentimes I'm calling to mind the term wounded healer. And there are many people who come to healing others through experiencing their own wounds, and that is fine. That there are many people who are like that, but that doesn't mean that, like, the wounded healer does not tell the story of somebody who becomes wounded through the healing of others. It's more about taking the wounds that we've experienced in ourselves and transforming them into light and healing. So certainly we wouldn't be expected to take on darkness from others and give them our light in return. That's just, you could, it's not sustainable. It's just not sustainable to do it that way. And so I feel like, that's one of the things your guides are wanting to let you know is that, if you can set healthy boundaries, whether they be physical or energetic or both. And I've got an old video from probably close to a year ago about energetic boundaries. You might want to go check that out. But once you can put those healthier boundaries in place, then you also find that you naturally flow out of this energy of feeling like you have to hold on to what's yours, because you just have a better understanding that things and people and circumstances, everything in life will come and go, and it will ebb and flow. And I'm a poet and I didn't know it. But that ebb and flow, that changing of things, when we're in this Four of Pentacles energy, this is kind of the energy of being in resistance in some way, or like, not being giving with our energy. And here, that's it right there, not being giving with our energy. But what's paradoxically true is that the better boundaries we have with ourselves and with people, energetically and emotionally, the better boundaries we have and the healthier boundaries we have in general, the less protective we feel. The better boundaries we have, the more vulnerable we are able to be, the more expansive, and the more, I guess expansive is really the energy I'm looking for here. The more expansive that we can be, because when we have those healthy boundaries and we are centered in ourselves, then we also can recognize all that we have, that we already have all that we need in this present moment. And so it kind of allows our heart space to open. When we feel like our needs are being met, it's much easier to be generous of spirit and generous with ourselves as well as with others in the space around us. So I feel like your guides are just really, they're really wanting you to step into this place. I feel like for some of you, this is more about being in leadership to self, rather than, being like a leader of a bunch of people. And that through that, you are also leading by example with regards to the way you live your life. This is very interesting energy, group 3. It feels very calm in a way. Like it feels as though like you've already done so much of the work, and it feels like, I'd be curious to hear who this resonates with, but this feels like very grounded energy. Boons. Yeah, we've got pentacles here. Like it feels very grounded. It feels like you've already put so much work into your own kind of like healing journey. And that's why now that you've put in all that work, your guides are wanting you to look at your own story and at yourself in a slightly different way, and allow that revision to revise the journey that you take moving forward. All right, we're going to take here a few more cards before we send you on your way. Just some final messages. for group 3. Okay, we got that one. Ah, we have the 9 of Pentacles. Beautiful. That came out for another group as well that I don't remember. Oh, wow. And the 9 of Cups. And the 3 of Cups. Okay. So your guides are also wanting to let you know that, like, collaborating with people, putting yourself out there into the world is going to also help to drive you forward, which is going to, again, provide more clarity for that star energy. And I already can feel some of you are like, oh no, it's scary, it's so new, I don't know what I'm doing. But whatever it is that you're working on here, you've got to put it out there. You've got to put yourself out there, or you know, that it's about taking concrete steps to reveal yourself and your energy and your creations and who you are to the world. And that every time you do that, you learn more and more how much you can trust yourself, and you get all of the experience so that you eventually move from that child of spells to the knight of spells, or the queen of spells, or the king of spells energy. And so it's like, but you need to put in the practice, you need to put yourself out there, you need to invest in that work, because it's really just all about doing it over and over again until you build that self-trust and that self-reliance. And like, look at what all her hard work has yielded her. She's got this beautiful garden. She don't need nobody. She knows that she can get, which isn't the same thing as saying she doesn't have people or that she doesn't want people, but she doesn't need them to get her needs met, because she knows that she can trust herself. And you know, this guy has all of the full cups available to him. He has them right there. I also feel like, okay, so for some people at the bottom of the deck, we had the Page of Cups here. And so I feel like maybe one of the things that additionally you could be working on with this 5th chakra specifically is the way that you speak to yourself. And I don't mean necessarily like when you're walking around, you know, doing whatever it is that you do, the way that we might chit-chat with ourselves, but your guides are wanting you to be mindful of the way you talk to yourself internally and the tone of your internal voice with yourself, whether you are kind to yourself, whether you give yourself grace, whether you give yourself compassion, or whether you show up as having a very judgmental internal tone with yourself, or very, what's the word I'm looking for? Patronizing, or talking down to, or just being mean. If you're mean to yourself in your internal voice, then that's something else that your guides are really wanting you to revise and use your revision of the, oh my gosh, I didn't even just notice that. Okay, so if we look close here at the bottom of this card, there we go. At the bottom of this card, we have this baby dragon. This baby dragon. And dragons are magical and capable and fierce. And that is one of the things that your guides want you to understand about yourself, is that you are magical. You have just so much power and capability available to you. And like I said, this really has the feeling of having put in a lot of work up to this point, and having grounded yourself maybe much more than you were able to. And so it's like, here we are, we're at the cusp of the solstice, where more light starts to come back to us, and your guides are wanting you to bring that additional light coming into the world and really use it to bring more light into the way you engage with yourself, and that will shape the way that you move forward in this fairy wind and claim your own wish fulfillment. I hope this makes sense, group 3. I hope that this resonated for you all. Your guides are really wanting you to put yourself out there. They're telling you that you are absolutely worthy of being out there, and that even if it feels a little bit scary, then you know, they're wanting you to just really keep doing it and keep trying, and again, working on your boundaries and really taking care of that healing that needs to be done for yourself. So group 3, I hope you found this helpful. Please enjoy your solstice, and don't forget to be kind and gentle with yourself, and I will see you next time.